dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say. There's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea. I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the 7 seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must flow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must flow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. If you cast your eyes, you'll join us like those before. We're an omen of the ocean night. When you see the flying Dutchman, it's too late for your soul. To the waters we gave now our grave. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must flow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must flow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean wind blow.
Seeking power over those that oppose me. Unspeakable crime, murder at midnight. A deal I made, a life I had to take. Someone I loved once held so tight. The screams will follow me, cries of my ancestors said, go away. My operation, fasting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. This form I desire, in innocent blood I will devour. Ancestors gathering round the dwelling, the spirit inhabiting, evil enveloping, the dancing graves in the night, the spirit occupying and transforming, stolen heights, dark practices, my secret life, feathered outers, mysticism, intriguing, my operation, fasting in brain, shape-shifting. I feel the animal high. so no one can see me, not even in the light. I am the crawler, I'm a within, I'm nobody's friend. This initiation, it's all part of the dark creation. My desires performing incantations. I walk in disguise. If I catch you, it's your demise. Shamanism, my religion, summoning spirits, manifesting myself and changing my flesh. A nightmare to behold. I'ma make you part of the fold. The skin of a man, the soul of a predator. The change is complete. This thing I become, my flesh has succumbed. My operation, fasting ingrained, shape-shifting. I feel the animal hide inside me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same.
All right, folks. Welcome to Paranormal Roundtable. I'm your host, Josh Turner. This is PRT. Join us in the real reality. So I figured something out. You know how this elbow had that? It kind of looked like it was gray or white or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Like ashy.
yeah. So here it is now, and I didn't even use the coconut oil yet. It's just kind of got a red, like a bruise on there. But I had a bruise. It just keeps getting rebruised. It's just what it is. And so I came in tonight early, and I looked at my desk, and those tiles,
Yeah.
that stuff's coming down, and so the whole keyboard had this like gray like stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep having to clean it off, every time we come back in. And I'm like, nobody's been in here but us. So who the heck has been messing with the keyboard?
Yeah.
It's just gray. And then there was a bunch of it over here. So I moved all this stuff, and there's still some of it on the desk, on the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's from that.
Yeah. Some stupid.
Anyone more money? Yeah. No, I don't think so. I'm good. Thank you. I can't even get the tiles fixed correctly. So my arm slides around on there, and I kept looking at it because it wouldn't be like that at home.
Yeah.
So I solved the case. But I'm still going to do something about my whatever, my skin. I have pretty good skin, actually. It's just this one arm. But I think when I'm talking, I lean on it a lot. And so it was that ash or whatever. It's not ash. It's like these, wish I could show you what it is. It's these tiles. And this one here, it's got a problem. We've had problems with it.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping it doesn't fall down on top of me one day. So we're done. I'm going to be leaving this place, and thank goodness. Hopefully not have to. As you can hear my voice, I'm nasally. I'm sick. These turds got me sick. Now the guards are all getting sick. Everybody's getting sick. Everybody's like, I'm sick. I know. Everybody's sick. So a lot of people are saying it's the virus, that everybody's, was getting. And I don't know if I buy into that. I don't know if that's what this is. A lot of people are saying that Logan says asbestos. I don't think I don't think there's asbestos.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but a lot of people
asbestos is good for you anyway.
Well, yeah, sure.
Don't listen to the liberal propaganda about asbestos.
Let's not even joke like that. Don't even joke like that, because I'm so sick of their real propaganda.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so I'm sure everybody's already heard Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, I wasn't like a big fan of Charlie Kirk. I mean, I liked the way that he would school these stupid college kids.
It's a hell of a communicator.
But the thing about it is, let's be honest, that how do you say it? Like those people that he argues with, they're the dumbest people on the planet. They're the blind leading the blind.
Oh yeah.
They're going and they're paying absorbent amount of money to get a degree that's going to be worth nothing, and they are the dumbest people. And they go up there with these, I'm gonna get my point across, and I'm gonna say a bunch of stuff that's going to be so earth-shattering and revealing, and no, it's not. You just look like a clown, So my honest opinion, he wasn't like my favorite person. A lot of people really admired him and liked him a lot, and I thought that was great. But to me, it was like low-hanging fruit. Those kids are stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, they're really stupid. It ain't hard to get one of them dummies, And if you're in college, I'm talking about you. And what are you going to do with that degree? And even to get anything out of it, a 4-year degree is going to do nothing for you.
Yeah.
The chances are that you might, if you keep on pushing, you might be able to, or if you go another 4 years and pay a bunch of money, by the time you get out of debt, and I used to have the numbers memorized, and right now I don't feel like quoting stats. I am so not feeling good. I need every ounce of energy to talk about what I need to talk about. You are in debt, massive amounts of debt. A friend of mine recently, he got shot too, and I don't know if I posted his GoFundMe or whatever. It was an accident. He got shot by a family member. In fact, Loki, you're in the chat. He's a good friend that Loki grew up with, went to school with him. He's a chiropractor. And 2 of my really good friends are chiropractors. And so anyway, prayer for him. He has a GoFundMe. I'm sure you don't care if I say his name. I mean,
yeah. Loki already said it in the chat anyway.
He did?
Yeah. His first name.
Let me make sure. Just reading some of the comments here. My head feels like it's just so much pressure. Yeah, he did. He said it. Not that I doubted you, but I doubted you. His name is Jack McGowan, and he, his own relative accidentally shot him while they were cleaning guns.
Oh.
There was a bullet that wasn't cleared. People don't realize how dangerous guns really are if you don't know what you're doing. It's horrible. And so the bullet don't just go in there and just hang out, or just go right through you. Sometimes it does. But a lot of times that bullet will go in somewhere and then move around up in there, and it can do all kinds of damage. And that's what happened with Jack. So I think he finally got out of the hospital. He's such a big, strong guy that he can actually, what do you call that? When you work on, I'm so tired and sick. When you adjust, he can adjust horses and cows.
Yeah.
So I had to go to him because Heather, my friend Heather, she wasn't strong enough to adjust me.
Yeah.
She jumped up and down and trying to, adjustment didn't work. So. Yeah, he wasn't the one cleaning the gun. Somebody was trying to clear it or something. And Jack's pretty responsible. He didn't do it to himself. That's not to be confused with my other friend, Jack. I have another friend. I have two other friends that we call them Big Jack and Big Jack. So I know 3 Big Jacks. And they're both big guys. They're all 3 big guys. But today was horrible.
Yeah.
Today was absolute dog crap. From the time I woke up until an hour ago, I got my ass kicked all day long. Problem after problem after problem. And I say the devil, let's just say the devils have been just on my ass, on my trail. They've just been all over me, just trying to do anything they can to be disruptive, be a thorn in my side and be a thorn in all of our sides. And they have just caused a lot of problems. And meanwhile, while all this is going on, we still have these idiots rampaging, saying all kinds of horrible things. I'm going to say this about a particular woman, and I'm going to address her directly. You need to stop, and you need Jesus. You need to actually pray in earnest, which is something I know you don't do. I know you don't do, because you sit up there and you tell lies about me and my wife like it's the gospel, and it's not. 99% of the things that you say and type on there is absolute lies. And you still support people who are degenerates. And so I hope that you find the Lord, the true Lord, before your time is up. I'm not even going to say it or repeat it. Go to PRT News. You'll see it. It just talking about my wife who has tumors, and she's, we have a couple days. We're going back to the doctor to get some more testing done and stuff. And we're going to find out more about these things that she's got. And so we're not saying anything until they can give us some kind of answers. So we're not talking about it. And then she said that I'm going to claim that I healed her. I don't heal anybody. God heals people, not me. But you yourself can do it. You can put hands on people, and God can heal them through you if you're a righteous person. But I believe anybody can do that. But don't let that fool you into thinking that just because you're able to be a vessel for that you're going to heaven. Because in the final judgment, there's going to be a lot of people who said, "Oh, we cast out demons in your name. We did all this stuff. What do you?" And he's like, "Depart from me. I never knew you." I know he knows who I am. He's not going to say that to me, because that would be a lie. Jesus doesn't tell lies. But what is his final verdict on me? I don't know. Does anybody really know? It's good to feel that you have that, but it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So you have to keep on, with the Love Foundation and good works. That just goes hand in hand with your salvation. Somebody asked me the question today in the, and thank you for that donation, Alan. Somebody asked me the question on Messenger if how I thought important it was to get baptized. I think it's very important, but it's not as important as the salvation prayer.
Mm-hmm.
The baptism is more of a physical thing for people. That and seeing I'm always leaning on this arm here. It's starting to bother me. It hurts. The baptism is more of a physical human thing. That's for you, but it shows like a covenant between you and God, between you and Christ. You can tell as my hair is jacked up. I need a haircut. But I tell you right now, man, I'm glad today is Wednesday, so I don't have to be on the air for 2 or 3 days because I am not feeling good at all. But I'm here. So tomorrow night we have the members only show. And last night we had an episode for Patreon. Mm-hmm. What was it called? I didn't even look. I don't even know.
I think I called it Stalked by a Skinwalker or Cursed by a Skinwalker. Hang on. I forgot exactly what I named it. I'm pretty sure I called it Skinwalker, Blood Feud. Stalked by a Skinwalker, yeah.
Yeah.
And the thumbnail says Skinwalker, Blood Feud.
So yeah, and we kind of go into depth on that Patreon episode. Mm-hmm. This will be the continuation from that episode. And we didn't do that on purpose. It was just that the way it fell was that episode dropped last night. And so if you want to know the beginning of this episode, because this episode can stand on its own.
Yeah.
But if you want to know the origins of it and how it started, and then I talk at length about on that particular episode, and it kind of sucks that it's behind the paywall because I talk about the Navajo Ute in the spiritual sense of their enmity between them and how the Utes fear the Skinwalker and what that entails, like what that does, what causes that. And so our friend, Charlie, the one that had the encounter with this Skinwalker, that was the first encounter he had. But tonight we're going to talk about what happened with his daughter, and then we're going to get into what happened to him and Joanne. But it goes with what happened to him and Joanne. Now, what happened to him and Joanne is his sister. That was 4 years, right? I think it was 4 years after what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a crazy story. What happened? Oh no, it would have been 2003. Let's make sure we're correct on that. It would have been more than that. Then I think he would have been 24. It would have been 5 years later, I believe. Anyways, we recorded the episode and we dropped it last night. It's on the Patreon, and you can't find it on YouTube. You're going to have to go to the Patreon, sign up for the Patreon, and you get amazing swag box full of merch, and then you get the extra shows. And then for tomorrow night's episode, it's just a $5 membership, and you get an extra show every week. So that's all that is. And then in the Patreon, you get the show and you get the swag box, but it's $10. And we had to do that in order to survive. We just had to keep, we have to keep going, and we're just not. I mean, you can't depend on people to you just can't. I mean, there's just most of the time it's the same people that donate, and I know I feel bad because they're trying to carry all the weight. I know there's got to be more people out there that can help, but I was determined, and for 6 and 3 months, 6 years, 3 months, or 4 months, whatever it was, we were determined not to have a paywall. No, 5 months, almost a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's almost 6.5 years. So about 6.5 years, we were determined to not have a paywall. And then when we went with the paywall, which everybody else was already doing, we got attacked vehemently about it, how sorry we are for doing it and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I tried as long as I could. I held off as long as I could. We had to get the Patreon going. And these were mostly suggestions from other YouTubers, podcasters who told us, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what you should do. So we were actually blame them. We were following their advice on how to survive. And so that's what we did. Sorry if some people are offended by that. I don't think it's wrong. I think that when you let your content be free for 6.5 years and the algorithms kicked our ass and we were constantly being mass reported by these other people, you know, we're only at 45,000 subs, 6.5 years. I don't think that's right. I think that's wrong because we weren't buying subs. We weren't boosting our numbers. We weren't making videos going, you know, like that. That's what makes the algorithms pop.
Yeah.
You know, there's a couple guys that have a pretty good show, and I saw them the other day, and they were both going, and I'm like, that just bugs the hell out of me because there ain't no reason for all the stuff they talk about, and then and that particular video made them do that.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? You know, like children or something. Dude, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to debase myself pretending to be the most terrifying video I've ever heard in my life. Come watch it and then make us a bunch of money with the algorithm. That's what you want to do. Go ahead. And if you think I'm talking about you, I probably am. Because if that's what you're doing, then that's what you're doing. But it's just, I don't agree with it. And Orem, that's L.A. Marzulli's guy. He says, we did the same thing, but L.A.'s ministry had grown and needs to pay people. Exactly. He doesn't want to travel much anymore. We're concentrating on the daily shows and films now. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do. A lot of people are saying R.I.P. Charlie Kirk. Like I said, I like the guy for the most part. I didn't agree with his stance on everything, but I agreed with 90% of it. So if that's a problem, you know, but the sorry people out there rejoicing over a man taken out at the age of, what was he, 31 years old? 31 years old with 2 children and a wife, and they murdered him.
Yep.
And they cowardly shot him from a distance. Why would they do that? Let me ask you this. Why do the powers that be do what they do to certain people? Because Charlie was gaining traction. Charlie had a huge following. Charlie was blowing up. Imagine a young guy like that when he's my age, where he's going to be. He's going to be a huge thorn in the side of those people. And so they had to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. And make no mistake, it's the same people. The same murderers, the same people. It's always the same people. They may not be directly tied, or they may be directly tied, but one way or another, they caused it to happen. They caused it to happen to all of God's people. And when I mean God's people, I mean Christians. That's exactly who I mean. I'm not pulling punches anymore, and I'm not going to just dance around issues. And yeah, you may not like my conclusions, but I promise you 100%, if you go and you do the work and you put in the work, if you do it correctly, you're going to come up with the same conclusions that I have. You can do a lot of mental gymnastics to try to make yourself not see the big picture. But I promise you, that is not the real reality. And here at PRT, we talk about it. We say, welcome to the real reality. This is the real reality we're going to talk about tonight. And there's a lot of people who don't like me. Maybe I'm not your cup of tea. Then change the channel and get out. We don't care. We have our base. That's all that matters. If we never get another sub, I'm happy with what we got. If we get more people to follow us, great. But you're never going to get me up here pandering to algorithms or trying to put my hands on my face like I'm terrified and whatever. I just won't do it. And then make shorter videos to get the attention span of these young people who, the kind of people that Charlie was arguing with. Those people are a waste of time. They have the agenda's stamp of approval all over them. They're the ones that are going to go and get the VAX 100 times and stick it in their ears and whatever. Those are the people. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Those are the ones that Jesus says, dust your feet off and move on. That's what you do. That's what you got to do. And tonight, when you hear this story tonight, you're going to want to go back and listen to the beginning, the prelude to this. What happened, how it started, and how I met this guy is interesting in and of itself. Nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens by coincidence. And he's been a good friend of mine for years. We're not best friends, but we do communicate. We stay in touch. And I will say this. He's 100% Ute. His wife is half. Now, when we left off the last episode yesterday, before we get into that, though, I want to say a quick prayer. We're going to say a quick prayer. I've had a lot of requests, and I think it's only right. And my wife is one of them. So I'm going to do this, and we're going to pray. Father, I pray in the name of Christ. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Your will may it be done, God. Omnipotent God, Father of Christ, I ask these things that you please heal this nation, heal these people and heal their minds and open their eyes and their minds and their ears that they can learn. Remove the blockages that keep these people ignorant, Lord God. Your Son, my Savior, says that we die for lack of knowledge. Please don't allow these people to have the knowledge blocked from them. Remove this level of ignorance that leads to death. Please help us to find and bring to justice the person that did this to Charlie Kirk. And Lord God, please help his family, his wife, and his children, and please bless them. And please accept his soul into the gates of heaven, if it is your will. Amen and amen. If anybody has a prayer request or something you feel like right now we need to get it going, get it done, we're still under 300, say it. What I said earlier, too, about Charlie Kirk, that's kind of confusing because the guy we're talking about tonight, his name is Charlie, too. I don't have a problem with him at all, what he was doing. I just believe that when it comes to those particular people that he was trying to talk to, I think he was doing something really good by videotaping it and showing, well, they don't call it videotaping anymore, by videoing it and showing the level of brainwash that has gone on in our education system. He was definitely exposing it. So in that respect, I say, yeah, but the people that you're arguing with, you're not going to change those people. Those people are going to have to live their lives years and years and get slapped in the face over and over again. And maybe when reality kicks them square in the face, then they will wake up and learn. But it's been I've come to the conclusion that some of the dumbest people in this country in particular are college students. College kids, they don't work, most of them. Some of them do, but a lot of them just live off of their parents and they just don't have a clue. I have been downtown at, one of the food trucks that we used to go to, and I've seen them just destroy things for no reason, just argue and complain and say the most horrible things to the people that work and look down on them, because they have this little respite from having any responsibility other than making a good grade. And they're under this illusion, the delusion, that they're going to get a degree and they're going to become successful. I've had many college kids ask me over the years, like, how I became successful, because by societal standards, I'm successful. And I told them it wasn't by doing college. Oh, you didn't go to school. They try to think like, I said, no, I dropped out and I became successful. But these people, they put this premium on, getting a degree. One person in particular is a friend of ours. And when she found out that Anthony was getting his architecture degree, she was like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. Blah, blah, blah. But when she found out what the college was, she acted like, oh, like that was nothing. So it's kind of like some sort of pride thing. Like oh, I'm getting a degree from such and such school. Doesn't matter. It's what you do with that degree and that kind of made me pause about her. It's what you do with that degree after you get it. Because Anthony has a degree and I could have, if I'd have kept going, but I wanted to get my life started and I started figuring out how bad in debt I was going to be. And I said, I can't live under that. I cannot live my life under a crushing debt. And that's what happens. Right now, we don't need more people with college degrees. What we need are people who are tradesmen. We need plumbers, welders, electricians. That's what we need in this country. There is a massive, massive shortage of that. And then they say, well, we need all these people from all these other countries to come and fill those niches. You know why? Because all the American kids are being fleeced in college. They're going to college and they're getting hammered financially by a system like we talked about the other night that's set up to rob them blind and rob their parents blind. And I can't believe that so many Gen Xers are stupid enough to fall for this trap and put their kids in college and think that it's really doing something. Now, every now and then, a degree will come, you'll do something with it. But like I said, it usually takes a continuation. And so that's it. That's my thing. And I think that degrees are really not, like right now, where we're at in this society, it's nothing. Just, get away from it. It's just an indoctrination. That's all it is. Indoctrination institution. Yeah, exactly. Orem just said, look at that. I think it's a plan to destabilize the U.S. Yeah, because they're in full effect. There's a lot of plans right now that they're throwing out there to try to destabilize the United States. So, anyways, that's my take on that. And God rest his soul, Charlie Kirk. Sad thing. And the people who did it, I hope that they're brought to justice very quickly. I hope justice is swift, and I hope that Trump says what he's going to do. I hope he does it. I hope he follows through with it. Also, the person that stabbed that Ukrainian girl on the bus, boy, the people on the left didn't say anything after she got stabbed, did they? They got real quiet. It was all Ukraine, Ukraine, Ukraine. Then when she got stabbed, you didn't hear a peep about Ukraine. You pick and choose your what you want to celebrate, your agendas, your agenda. You follow the agenda, and if you're one of those people celebrating, one day your eyes will be opened, whether it's by the media that's the alternate media or by God. Your eyes will be open, right? Or your fellow man may have to do it for you. And it could be these people that you love and celebrate so much, these evil, evil people. They may open your eyes too. And that's going to be horrible, because when they do that, it's going to be like opening a can of sardines and just dumping it on the floor. Yeah, that's what they're going to do to you. If you were to look at how we live compared to the average Chinese person who lives under communism, which is what a lot of these kids are being indoctrinated to believe, a socialist utopia, which does not exist. The average Chinese worker works 14 to 16 hours a day, and they make let's get this, 1/25 of what you make. That was the numbers that were released by one particular city. And I believe I don't think it was Beijing. I think it was not Shanghai. I'll come to me in a minute. It's a city where it's all industry, right? And that wasn't even the average worker. They were skewing the numbers. That's a supervisor. They make 1/25 of what we make on an average minimum wage. That's a supervisor. That's somebody in charge of other people. These people sleep on top of each other. You have no idea. You really don't. And I know this because I have a lot of friends who've been over there. I have at least 3 friends who've gone over there to kickbox. You don't know what these people have told me. And a lot of these guys have traveled all over Asia. I've been to Asia, 2 places. And they live a completely different life than what you live. So when you sit there and say you want things to be socialized like what they got, take a look at Venezuela. Take a look at Cuba. Take a look at all these countries where they have devoured human rights and freedom. Why don't you ask Tibet, right, about how much they enjoy the boot hill of communism? Go ask them, since you're so hip on it. But you're blinded. They're blinded. They are so blind that they hear code words like Pavlov's dogs, and they attack. If you don't know what Pavlov's dogs are, you're not my generation. Go look it up on your little Google thing. And they hear that and they just go crazy. They're trained like a dog whistle to go after. Yeah, that's what it is. And propping up whatever contemporary nonsense, free this, free that, and like they'll say free Palestine, but do they really care? Do they really know what's going on over there? Do they have even the slightest clue? Because those people that say, oh, free Palestine, they're going to go and side with their friends in college when they tell them, well, I'm Jewish and my family's, oh, okay, well, I'm on your side then. Yeah. They don't care. Mm-hmm. They're going to go along with whatever's popular. But those people, whether they're from Israel or take your pick, Nepal, or any of these places that are being oppressed, Ukraine, Russia, where all these wars are going on, Palestine, all these different places, those kids that come from those places have a totally different view of the world. And they look at you like you're not even a retard. You're a half a retard. That's what you are. And they laugh at the Americans because you're so stupid. You've been spoon-fed slop for so long, and you just gobble it up and think that this is real. The media, twisted and evil, whether it's to the left, mostly to the left, or to the right. Some of it to the rights are just stupid too. Stupid. Lies, lies, lies. And no one goes out and checks and says, hey, maybe this isn't correct, right? You don't do that. That would upset your reality. Can't do that. Can't have that. Young people, take your head out of your ass. But luckily for me, I don't have a lot of young people on my page. Most of the young people watch me on Spotify. They'll never come over here and look. This takes too much energy to do this. That takes too much thinking. I'm not shotgunning stories to them like they shotgun beers at a frat party, and they don't watch it. The live stream is like, I literally had a young person the other day friend me, and she was looking at her and she goes, oh, okay, yeah, an hour. I can handle that. Like she was, that was okay. If you go beyond that, she can't do it. So I'm in no danger of losing people from that side. I'm just not. They don't participate. They don't do anything. They're not my base. So I don't give a crap. Once they start coming to me and making changes, like true changes in their life and becoming more aware, self-aware, and becoming more like wanting to learn, then it'll be different. And of course, there's always exceptions to every rule. Oh, here you go. Here's one. Kaz McIntyre says, if you consider 24 young, I'm young. Yeah, 24. I don't have a lot of 24-year-olds. Most of my base is Gen X. They relate to me. They understand because they understand. We were that generation. We were raised, like they say, on water hose, water, and neglect. It's the truth. So was my friend who had this Skinwalker encounter. We're going to get into him. Now, here's what happened with him. For those of you, if you watch the Patreon, I kind of know how many people actually, if you watch the Patreon, say here, like, hey, hey, I'm here. I watched the Patreon. Just type in the word Patreon. So I know, kind of get a estimate about how many people actually watched it, and do I have to go back and just explain everything, or there were a lot of people that actually watched it? Jessica says Patreon. Jessica watch a Patreon. Bobby in Patreon. Jennifer Patreon. Patreon. Good. A lot of people. So a lot of people. Patreon. You know. Okay. So here's the thing. We got a lot of people who did watch the Patreon. So you know what happened at the end of the episode of yesterday. It kind of left it open for because we can only do an hour. My friend, he has a daughter. Well, he has 2 daughters and a son. He ended up, and he adopted a child too. But he had 4 kids. But I don't want to leave that child out. It was from a sister. As she'd passed away, and her husband was an alcoholic, so he took the child in and raised her. So basically, 3 daughters and a son. I didn't mean to leave her out, but that's what it was. So having these children. One in particular, one child, came to him, his oldest, came to him and said, and if you're going by order, it would be that child, then the second child would be the one he adopted from his sibling, and then there were 2 more. And then he had, so it would be 1, 2, 3 girls and a boy. The son was the youngest. Here is the weird thing. Only one of his children had these abduction scenarios. The firstborn, the daughter, they were living at a place in Taos, and so in New Mexico. And so this daughter comes to him and says, I can't sleep. I'm having nightmares. I'm having problems. And the oldest child, this is the oldest child, had a cousin that was sleeping over, and that cousin, and I might have been confused on the show. I might have said that it was her cousin, took her by the hand and took her in there. They were babysitting, and that were the children that ended up of his sibling who ended up dying. It says she's having night terrors. And her name was Abby. And Abby told him, she said, I can't sleep. I'm having, whatever. And so he's being a good dad. He goes to sleep and says, just come lay down with us. It's okay. The 2 cousins go back to their bed or whatever. Everything's fine. Right? The next day, this little child had bruises on her wrists, like somebody had grabbed her. Now, here's the thing. He told me himself, he goes, it could have happened like maybe the cousins, when they yanked her out of the bed, they squeezed her wrist, but I don't think so. He said, and I was half asleep and my wife was a little more awake than me, but our child had these bruises on her wrists. And she said, my arms hurt. She's a little bitty. She's like 4. When they look at her arms, they see these blue bruises, these marks, purple, blue, whatever. It's really bad. So they set up a doctor's appointment with her, and they took her the next week, and they kept saying she's getting these weird bruises on her wrists and her ankles. When the doctor interviews her, they think, well, this could be child abuse but there's no other marks on her, right? They take her to talk to a counselor, and the counselor is like trying to make sure that there's not some sort of child abuse going on and, doing their job. And she says, how did you get those marks? And she goes, I don't know. I think it's the gray people. When they come, sometimes they put me on a bed and they lock me down on it. They put locks on my arms, wrists, or cuffs, the way she described. She described cuffs, basically. When these people interviewed her, they went back to Charlie and they told him, they said, your daughter's saying some really weird stuff. These gray people, do you have any idea what this could be? Why is she seeing these gray people? She says that they're, from the estimates, she said that they're a little bit taller than Dad. He's a tall guy. He's like about 6'2". She's saying that they're taller than him. So we're looking at like maybe a couple inches taller, 6'4", 6'5", these tall grays. She said that 3 to 4 of them would come and abduct her. She didn't say abducted, but take her, right? Fast forward about 10 years, and she is still in the throes of all of this mess. Now, this was happening in between the time that he had his first encounter with what I believe was a Skinwalker, so does he. And I'm not going to get into the whole thing. If you want to hear about the Skinwalker and what it was, what it did, go listen to the Patreon. It's too much. But if you know, you know. He basically told me that him and his sister Joanna, they had gone to the Olympic Forest in Washington, and they were with some friends who claimed that they had seen Bigfoot not once but twice in that area where they were at in the north of the Olympic Forest. Here's what's weird about it. He says, I said, tell me everything you know about this trip. And here's what Charlie told me. He says, I don't remember anything about the trip. I remember seeing the Skinwalker, and that's it. He's a Ute now. You know that they are cursed. They have a cursing on them from the Skinwalkers, from the Navajo from southern Utah. The area where he was at in the Bigfoot country that he was in Washington is known for having a lot of traffic. And in that area, we were talking about it with Bob Hartman. We get like Dogman reports there too. It's not just Bigfoot. And he said, according to the people that I was with, they claim that a Squatch, they called it a Squatch, went into their area where they were at and chased off some kind of black bear that had tried to break into one of their tents. He said that happened on the first night. I have no recollection of that. He's like, I don't doubt that this could have happened. He's like, but I, to this day, do not have any recollection of ever seeing a Sasquatch. He's like, but my sister claims it happened. Not only did she claim it happened, but one of my buddies claims that it happened too, a guy that he was in the military with. He said, here's the thing. He's like, the whole time I'm going through all of this, he's like, I had just gotten out of the military. And he says, I had to go and, start my life over. My wife that I had met in between these encounters was not on board with any of this. She didn't believe in it. In fact, being half Ute, she was terrified. And then part of her family was from Ogden. So they were white people. They didn't believe in this. She said, this is the thing. She's like, if you want to believe in it, fine. I will back you up. I will support you 100%. But don't expect me to be on board with it because I don't understand it and I'm not going to. And the only thing I know from being raised by my aunts, my mother, my grandmother, was that the Skinwalker is evil. We're not supposed to talk about it. We don't bring it up. And we are under a curse from the Navajo people. We talk about that in depth on that Patreon episode, and you can go and listen, like I said. And she says, I am not going to touch that. I'm not going to mess with that. Well, it didn't help that one of her best friends was from San Jose, And she's Mexican, and she had a full-on encounter with the lechuza when she was 8 that she remembered clearly, and had a scar right here, a little scar. She worked with this woman, and she said, what happened? You know, I said, no, don't want to get too personal. And she had heard that she was in an abusive relationship. She said, no, that wasn't from him. She said, he didn't do that. No, he did other things, but not that. She said, I got attacked by something like a giant bird when I was 8. She didn't go into detail, but his wife kind of pushed the issue with a friend of hers. And her friend, Celia, told her, can you tell her the story? Because it's pretty riveting. So they're at lunch, and they're at this hour-long lunch break, and they're at this place, and they're eating salads or whatever. And she says, okay, I'll tell you. When I was 8 years old, there was this woman who was after my dad. He had met her in a bar. He had an affair, and she wanted to be with my dad, but he was married to my mother, didn't want to be with her. My mother died tragically in a car accident. 3 days after the burial, she's like, this thing comes breaking through my window, because we had these air conditioned units, right? Grabbing me with its talons. She goes, the head looked like that woman that he had been with. So that woman ended up dying herself in a horrible accident in San Francisco. And she ended up like going off into the water or something, or outside of San Francisco, and she drowned, supposedly. So I don't know anything about all that. I just know this is what they told me. Years later, she was told by the cousin of that woman. She said, that woman was a witch. That was my first cousin. And she's like, she's a terrible, horrible person. She buried something in your backyard. She goes, because I read her memoirs, because after she passed away, get this. He's like, me and my mother were going through her stuff. She's like, my mom was her first cousin. She would have been my second cousin. He said that we went through her memoirs, and she described burying this bloody rock that she had used to kill some kind of bird. And then she buried it in your backyard when she was there with your dad while he was up taking a shower. Literally cementing a blood bond between this woman and this man. Her dad was well off, so that's what she wanted from him, was that the money that you know, and she would do anything she could to get it. Her mother, now this is the woman that worked with Charlie's wife. Her mother was not a Christian, was not a devout Christian. She believed in the old ways, and she kept them. And ultimately, his wife believes that that's what cost her life, because she wouldn't accept Christ. But then she came to her many times after she had passed, asking for prayer and intercession, and she did. Now, she said that she had a friend that was so devout that she thinks that she helped her cross over, and that she actually, being in a purgatorial type state, which she didn't believe existed, that because her dad was Mormon, right? He didn't buy into any of that kind of. He was just paying lip service to it. He says, no, those religions will make you crazy, blah, blah, blah. So that was her experience with the paranormal, with the other side. She wanted nothing to do with it. That's his wife. And she's like, especially after hearing this woman's story, he said Charlie told me too, and I've known him for years. He said it kind of messed with her mind. Mm-hmm. You know, like, I don't want this to kind of fall on us and follow us. And he said, well, that's too bad, because this Skinwalker, which we know from the Patreon episode, it is the Skinwalker, mm-hmm. which they called the one. It was, all the others came from that one. Yeah. The interesting thing, we talk about, and we go in depth on that on the episode. The conclusion we come to on that episode is that it is some type of descendant of the Archons. So, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like you're wincing in pain there. Hey, Blondes and Booze, how you doing?
Yeah, I just got the aches.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So this thing, and if you want to know, like I said, in depth, go listen to it. But it plays off of that. He knows 100% that this thing is evil and that it follows them. His grandfather's grandfather, if I remember correctly, right? It was his grandfather's grandfather. Uh-huh. Grey Dove was his grandfather, and it's a funny way he got that name. It's not what you think.
Yeah.
So he's a character. His grandfather killed that creature's grandfather. But that creature's grandfather was much, much, much more ancient than his grandfather. We're talking thousands of years. This is an entity, a spirit, that was born as a being on this planet, but not as a human. It was the son of one of the originals, fallen. Now, you got to remember, if you're going all the way back to this original being, they call it the original sin. Because when his grandfather slew him, they said he has killed the original sin. This thing had a grandson, which is now ancient, thousands of years old himself. And then he had children, and they're children, and they run around doing what they do. When they die, these are literally like Nephilim. They run around attaching themselves to other natives who want to bargain. So you're dealing with the children of that bloodline. It doesn't go away. It doesn't end. It propagates. So he believes, though, that this is a direct descendant of way back, the Skinwalker that messed with him and tried to attack him when he was in Utah hunting elk, Rocky Mountain elk. And we talk about that on the episode. But he ends up getting away. It's a crazy story. He's now in the Olympic Forest. And apparently there has already been a black bear that came to the tent. And it was chased away by what the people, I guess, participants of this trip, the hike, there were half a dozen of them. 3 of them claimed that it was a Sasquatch. The other 2 did not know what it was. And Charlie didn't see anything. He doesn't remember it. It was like his memory was wiped. Now, here's the interesting thing. Him and his wife and her sister had an encounter near Ogden on the road going from there to, I think, Idaho. And they saw something that looked like a white pale crawler run out in front of their SUV. Charlie almost flips the vehicle. They go up on 2. Can you imagine how scary that is? On 2 wheels and go back down. And it's like in the winter, right? It's like early December. And he goes, dude, we should have been goners. And he goes, but here's the thing. To me, it looked like a white deer, not an elk. I said like a white elk. He said, no, like a white, just like a deer. He said, but to my sister, to my wife and my sister-in-law, it looked like this thing crawling around on all 4s like a human. Its butt was like up in the air. They said it had a rounded head, and he's going like, why did I see something different? He said, and what's even weirder is we all get home. Nobody talks about it. I remember we went home and we ate some leftovers. He's like, and then the kids were really young at that time. He said, I don't remember. This was prior to the child's abduction scenarios, right? Abby. He said, my firstborn, my youngest, now she had 2 older cousins that would stay there. She called them sisters, but they weren't. She ended up adopting one of them who was a little bit younger than Abby. And the other 2 ended up going to different families. And it really sucked because they just couldn't afford to take on all the children. He said, we didn't have a wealthy family. We didn't come from a wealthy family. We were reservation people, So he ends up having to adopt this child, but she is intuitive, very intuitive. And she is not being abducted. That's the interesting thing. Abby is being abducted. The middle child, which is actually his sister that died, that's her child. She's very intuitive. She watched Abby being taken by a beam of light through her window. Not an open window either. Like she went through it, physically went through it. When she ran into the room to wake them up, they talked about it, and she said she remembers telling Charlie and his wife that she's being taken, and they were just like nodding their heads like, okay, yeah, like nodding, and they were not doing anything about it. Then they clicked the TV off, and it was pitch dark in their room. They rolled over, went to sleep. So she runs back out into the room. She writes down what she saw and drew a picture. She's by her own. I got a massive headache. It's just started hitting me.
Yeah, it just hits you like
it's
waves,
bad. It's
dude.
really bad.
It's like just now, I had this pain that was hitting me.
Hang on, folks. I got to get some water.
Yeah, I've been drinking that Pedialyte.
I can't drink that because of the sodium. So here's what happened. She literally documented on her own, a little child who was like 3 years old, a 3-year-old was able to draw and document multiple of these from the time she was 3 until she was like 18, until her older sister moved out. She had documented at least 32 different abductions that she witnessed herself, but never once did they abduct her. And more than one occasion, she tried to grab these beings. It wasn't until she was 16 years old, which she talks about how, and this is something that me and Charlie talked about in depth. He believes that she was a slave to these beings and they were doing all kinds of stuff to her. These grays passed her off to these reptilians. They were showing up looking like regular people, but they didn't make any facial features, and it looked like they were wearing like these cheap latex masks. And at one point, bless you. Hold on one second. Let me do something real quick. Sorry, lost some people there. I know everybody jumps off. They think that I disappeared. I just had to blow my nose, and I'm just sick, folks. I'm under the weather bad, but I'll be all right. So, where was I at? So, what ended up happening? 32 different scenarios that she witnessed personally. Who knows how many times this child was abducted? Once they did the regression, and yes, they did a regression on his daughter. Abby was able to point out that she remembers being abducted 5 to 6 times a year for over 20 years. Can you imagine that? Okay. To put it in perspective, it's like, like every season, there's an abduction every few months, and then sometimes in between. And so these are ongoing, 100 and something different, 120, whatever it was, abductions. She said it was over 120. Her younger sister witnessed this. Now, here's what's weird. You might say, well, they didn't abduct her because she didn't have the same blood. But what about her other younger sister and her younger brother? Charlie's other 2 children. They never got abducted, and they did a regression because at one time, and one time only, the youngest sister, who's blood related, I mean, they're all blood related, but like the daughter, the actual daughter, and I hate to talk like that because they're all brothers and sisters, but this for the sake of the case, this person saw an abduction scenario happen twice, or no, once. The son saw it happen 2 times, 2 different times. Once when he was 13, and then again when he was 14. Very close together. One like 3 or 4 months before his birthday, when he was 13. Then a few months after his 14th birthday, he saw it again, and they were near a barn playing at their grandparents' house. So he believes that he was put under, but he doesn't have any other recollections of being taken like this. Now, we were talking the other night about blood types, and I believe that was on Monday's show, which would be, was it? Yeah, it was Monday. Monday, we were talking about blood types. Now, I said openly on here that I believe that my blood type has changed. Dick Richards came on, and he's on there on Monday. We had a lot of people on, but Dick was saying that, he believes that a lot of people's blood types have changed. And I explained, if you go back and watch that Monday episode, I explained why I thought that was. And it's a very riveting show. Go back and watch that Monday episode, because we had a guy that came on and talked about seeing a man in a park that he believes turned into a tiger-like, or it was a tiger-like creature walking around in a park that became a man. Really crazy. Okay, so the guy comes on, he tells that story. So yeah, there's that all the time with the weirdness on Mondays. People come on and tell their encounters. A lot of weird stuff comes out. So check out that one on Monday. That just dropped. So here we have the blood type thing. He finds out that her blood type is type O negative. right? The other children's blood types are A and B. And so that he got this done. He got it looked at. Him himself, A and B. Here's the weird thing. Him and his wife, they don't. So this one child has a different blood type. He finds out that she also has weird, like it's really weird. When they did some testing on her, they found out that she had extra organs. Weird, strange stuff, like, you wouldn't expect. She had like, and what I mean by extra organs, like she had like extra, like she was born with 2 kidneys, but she had this other something that functioned kind of like a third kidney that was just kind of there. And when they x-rayed her to find some of the things that was causing her pain, they found out she didn't have a, what do you call that? Her appendix had been removed. Her appendix being removed is really weird because she was born with an appendix, but it showed like there was something like a small little incision that is way smaller than an appendix scar, and how it was taken out, who knows? But it was gone. It was missing. But she also had some other weird things, like her spleen was bigger than it should have been. Her liver was much, much smaller than a normal person's liver. A lot of weird stuff. Like, it was just bizarre. She had beyond 20/20 vision. Like, she could see perfectly. When she was young, when she was small, they thought she was going to be blind because her eyes were so bad. But she's going to kindergarten, and they're like, dude, her vision is perfect. She doesn't have this problem. I know people personally who've said that they've had this happen to them. Now, about the time when she was 9 years old, all the kids were in the back room playing. He goes, we had a pretty big house at that time. This would have been after he had the second encounter with the Skinwalker. He said that this thing was never going to stop. And to this day, like, just the most recent encounter he had, not him, but his family, was just like 6 months ago. That's crazy. So you're talking about like March, this thing was still stomping around in their area. First encounter he had, right? And now, crazy thing. First encounter he had was in Utah. Then they're living in New Mexico and they're having all kinds of weird stuff happen. His wife is like, she had a really good job. They ended up moving her to this whatever, and then their office closed there. And then she said, we got to find another place. We got to relocate. He said, okay. His job was a lot more flexible, being an electrician. And then he ended up moving up north, and then they ended up in Ogden, up in Utah. Got relatives there. Her family is from Ogden, so they decided to go. He has a couple relatives there. But he hung out in Provo, and that's where on the show where I met up with him in Provo, where my cousin was in the rodeo, and we hung out and ate dinner. That's when he told me this story of the Skinwalker. So before I get into what the children have seen and what they've been seeing of this Skinwalker creature, which, if you want to call it that, this is what happened to him and Joanna, his sister. Him and his sister grew up on the res. But she left when she was young. She got pregnant by this guy, and he ended up going to jail. It was a whole thing. And then she ended up losing the baby, maybe. To this day, she will tell you, and I talked to her, that she thinks that the Skinwalker had something to do with taking the child. She even believes that she saw the soul of this child as it grew older. And she even believes that her prayers, this is her belief, I'm not saying I believe this, that was intercession that took place to free this child from the grip of this entity who had taken him as a child before he was born. Weird stuff, I know, but that is their belief. I'm not going to challenge them. I'm not going to argue with them. I didn't argue at all. I just said, hey, if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. Who am I to tell you that this didn't happen? If you tell me, hey, Wolf, this is what happened to me and this is what I believe. If I start telling you, well, I don't believe that. But if you ask me my opinion, then I'll talk freely and I'll tell you what I think. They didn't ask me my opinion, so I didn't give it in that particular situation because it's not my business to give. So occasionally, if the spirit moves me, yeah, but that's what they believe. Don't make fun of it, please. It's what they believe. Here's what happened. They were on this trip in the Olympic Forest. She was engaged to this guy, and she wanted her husband or her brother to like this future husband, so they invited him on this trip. His wife had to stay back and work, and so they hadn't gone and done anything. So when they went on to this trip in Washington, the Olympic Forest, here's what happened. When they returned from this trip, everybody was like just freaking out. Like his sister saw something full on, like 100%, that looked like the way you would describe something. It was like a Wendigo looking creature, but with the antlers, right? The antler type Wendigo, right? But it morphed into something that looked more like flesh and blood, wolf-like, a werewolf-like. And I'll tell you the story. Them two and two of their friends got separated from this other couple that they were with. That couple decided that they were going to go in another direction. They were going to go to another part of the national park, and they were going to keep hiking. The other four said, we're going to go back. We got to go back into this port, you know. And Charlie don't even remember what port they were in. He said, we were a couple different ports. I think I know where they're at, but I'm not 100%, so I'm not going to say it because I could be wrong. When they got back to this port, they loaded the boat, and they were heading back to Seattle, to the mainland or whatever. He said, point blank, he says, man, I had no recollection or memory. He's like, my sister's very quiet. Her best friend and her best friend's boyfriend or whatever, they had left and went the other direction. He said, but this other girl who was the sister of his future brother-in-law, she was there, and she finally broke the ice, and her brother were just kind of quiet, and she's like, that's crazy, huh? And he's like sitting there going like, I don't even know what they're talking about. He has no clue. And he's like, what's crazy? What are you talking about? And she's like, well, what you guys saw. Then he says, my sister Joanna grabs her hand and says, hey, well, we're not going to talk about it right now. Her boyfriend at the time, fiance / future husband, said, oh, like he doesn't remember. Then he looks over and is like, what do you mean I don't remember? He goes, at this point, they're walking through Seattle, and it's at Pike's Place, right? I've been there. He says, we're walking through the market, and they're trying to tell me, well, let's stop and get some food, you know, and let's just change the subject. He said, we get back to the hotel. We're going to stay one night in Seattle. So we decided to stay at this really nice place. We went out that night, and the nightlife back at that time, and he thinks he's very similar beliefs like me. He said it was normal. This was before, what was it called? Chad, or was it where they had the
Chaz?
The Chaz. Yeah. He said this was before Chaz and Lord of the Flies and all this other stuff that went on. He said it was pre that time, you know, way back in the gap. And he said, so I go into this restaurant, and, you know, and we're eating whatever, and it's after hours. And there was like, back then there was a thriving nightlife, and there were all these places open 24 hours. He says, and my future brother-in-law, who I love dearly, he's like, he's a really good guy. And he tells me, he says, let me tell you something, man. He goes, I know these ladies don't want me to tell you. He goes, you saw something. He goes, and you need to figure out what it was. He's a white guy. He's not a native or anything like that. But his best friend is native from that area. And he said, you know, and so he goes, I have a friend that lives up in this area, because that's why they went up there, because he was from there. He introduces him to this guy, Ronnie. Ronnie is a native and I don't know from what, I can't remember exactly what tribe he said he was. But he said, it's not that important, but he said this guy came in, he talked to him, and he says, I can take you to somebody that can regress you. He's this Vietnamese guy. He's a shaman. And I know about the Vietnamese, they can do these things. And he says, he can figure out what's blocking you. So when they take him to this guy, he goes, dude, there's like this stereotypical, like, hippy dippy, smells like incense. He's like, there's these little cones burning, there's Buddhas everywhere, there's like the bead, you know, and he's like, I open it up, and there's this Buddha, and there's all this. He's like, I was like repulsed, you know, as a born again Christian. I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. He says, my brother-in-law, future brother-in-law, tells me, no, come on, let him help you. He's like, I'm a Christian too, but this guy can help you. He's a Buddhist, you know. So he said that was the first time he'd ever been, you know, around Buddhism to any length, and understood that it was a philosophy, which he later adopted as a philosophy, not a religion. Charlie goes in there, and this guy starts talking to him, and he goes, and during the session, he goes, dude, my head started flipping around. My body was perfectly still. He goes, and they videoed this. They videoed me with a video camera. He's like, my head was just bobbing around, moving up and down. He goes, like I was headbanging to heavy metal music. Jeez. He said eventually it got so violent that they stopped him, because they thought, man, something he's going to hurt himself, you know. So they stopped him. They thought, you're going to have whiplash, you know. So they got him up off the chair, and they said, what do you remember? And he says, I remember. And he just kept saying that. And then he fell out. He staggered outside. There was a Safeway store or whatever. I think he said it was a Safeway. He said, I walked out of the apartment, and I went, or the house, like a duplex, and I almost got hit by a freaking car in the parking lot. He said, it was crazy. He goes, and then I tried to get into to a van with these hippie people, and they were like, what are you doing, man? You know, and he's like, I think I'm lost. And they were like, are you okay? He goes, and then my friends come running up and they're like, hey, we got him. It's cool. You know, he's just going through it. And he said they were real understanding. He said, but there was a girl there. He goes, she was kind of a reddish brown, auburn haired color. He goes, she got out of the van and she goes, whoa, hold on. She goes, your aura is really dark. I mean, it's really, and it's almost non-existent. There's just a dark shade around you. She says, you have something on you and you need to get rid of it. And so he said when he got back to Ogden, or at that time he was living in Taos, he goes, I got back home after all this. I told my wife, I said, I need to go to the res. So he went to the res and he had an old fashioned cleanse from somebody who was his grandfather's best friend's wife. So they did a cleanse on him, and he goes, after the cleanse, I had a more vivid realization. Like I realized, and this is when he was talking to me in Provo. And he said, I realized that the reason my aura was so dim, he's like, I had this parasitic thing that was one of the children of this skinwalker that I saw. He says, Wolf, I'm going to tell you what I saw. He said, this thing, when I saw it walk into the clearing, he's like, the people that we were with were busy looking at these otters that were playing in the sound. He goes, they were by the water. He's like, and they were, a good ways away, probably like 80 yards away. And he said, we were sitting there and I saw this thing come from across the sound. He goes, and it was walking. And then it went into the water and all I saw were like these two horns, like, set of horns. When it came up out of the water, he goes, it was skeletal, but it looked like it had like rotting flesh on it. He said it was a vision. He goes, and my sister was like, what's wrong with you? She kept trying to get his attention, and he kept putting his hand up like, I'm watching something. When this thing got closer and closer, he says there was this bag over its, like a backpack over its shoulder, kind of like how people would just, they put a backpack like over one arm.
Yeah.
And there was this weird looking black tar-like thing, like a ball behind it. He said this thing moved and turned its head, and you could see eyes and a nose. It was like a baby. Yeah. He said it was terrible. It looked like a demonic entity, and it had little teeth, and it had red eyes, and there was white around the eyes. He said this thing that was skeletal had like this elk head, but he goes, when it lifted its head up, it was an extremely emaciated and skinny native-looking guy that was wearing this elk headdress, like an elk's ears, whatever, not a deer. He said he took it off, and guy was tall, like about 8 feet, and he took it off and he dropped it, and he starts like muttering these words. He goes, I don't know what it was. He goes, years later, I heard the Navajo language. He goes, I wasn't exposed to it a lot. He's like, but I knew right away that's what that was. When this thing started making that noise and chanting that, he goes, it was cursing me. He's like, and then the next thing you know, there's this black tadpole looking thing with a head going up my leg. No. And then going around my pants. And he goes, then I started screaming, Joanna. And she looked and she saw something under his skin going and attaching itself to his back.
It's a
Parasite, yeah. She said that then she turned and looked and she saw this guy was like this skinny, emaciated looking guy, and he was like shaking and going, eh. And I hope I did that. I practiced it a little bit there. But she said he was going, and then like he was doing like this long, like, and then when he got to that, and he held there, like at that octave. And when he did, the flesh on his body began to change, and he was turning into this wolf-like entity, not unlike a werewolf. And she said it was horrific. She goes, it was absolutely horrific. She goes, I heard a voice over my right shoulder, and it sounded like a woman, and it says, throw the rock. She goes, and I didn't have a rock. She goes, I leaned down, and right there on the ground was a piece of what looked like black obsidian. She said it was right there to the right of me. There's no way that it could have been an accident. And she picked it up, and it said, throw the rock. And when she did, she threw it. And she said, not even super devout Christian, she said, yeah, our siblings were a lot more Christian than we were, but, they were a little bit older. And she said, we didn't really pay much attention to it, but she said, I said, in Jesus' name. And she goes, I threw it. And this guy turns, and then he goes backwards. It was almost like slow motion. And she goes, it was so weird. She's like, how you would see like the Matrix, how he dodges everything, kind of like that, but more like real, not the movie, And she said it was going towards him, but it was heat sinking. It was coming toward him. And when he lifted his head up, it went right through his throat. She goes, and it was going in slowly. And it was coming out the back of his neck. And she goes, I am certain that I killed it. She said that he went down into the water and he floated. And then his arms and his legs were kind of flailing. Weird thing. She says he yelled like that, but she says after all that was going on, she goes, I saw, and maybe it was just a vision, but I saw what looked like this big black fin. And this orca came up and grabbed him and just took him down into the water and was gone. I don't know the significance of that. And I asked her if she thought it was a real creature. She says, I don't think so. I think it was like a vision. But she said she visualized that before it happened, and then she witnessed it happen with her own physical eyes, but it could have been something that she saw in her mind's eye. Now, that's what's weird about the whole metaphysical, because you get into this whole, is it something that you really saw, or is this something that you saw in the metaphysical and your third eye is seeing this, whatever you want to call it, because that is that's the key. And some people can see these spiritual things, and then some people can't, and then some people live in that borderland. Whatever it was, it definitely had a profound effect on her brother. And when he did that cleanse, he went back up to the mountain, and I told you about that, where we were at the plateau, where I took the button, and we all saw this weird. I didn't talk about on the show on the Patreon about what we saw, but I saw this giant wolf-like thing come out of the smoke, and a bunch of people saw it with me. So I wasn't. If it was a hallucination, it was a mass hallucination. Okay, and so he said that when he went up there, he got naked, took the button. He goes, and it was cold. It was like 32 degrees up there, freezing. He's like, but I felt hot, and there was this steam coming off of my body. He goes, and then he goes, I sweated really bad. He's like, and then when I come out of this, there's this little like a dome. He said, when I came out of it, it was like a sweat lodge. He said, when I came out of it, and there was a couple of my friends who weren't from the res that did this. He goes, I saw black goo coming out of all of my pores. Ugh. He goes, and it was dripping down onto the ground, and everybody was like, ooh, what the heck is that? So people were backing up and looking at him, and one of the elders came up to him and said, hey, you're fine, that happens. And so as soon as that thing reconstituted itself, he said it looked like it was like kind of like a tadpole, but with arms and legs now, but it had a tail, and it was looking up at him, and it was crawling real fast. He goes, and his friend took a stick and jabbed it, and they picked it up, and they all looked at it. And when they were like going, hey, take a picture of this, this thing started to just turn to ash, and then it just blew. The wind blew, and it got into their face, and they were like, what the hell? And so he goes, for years they were making fun of me, talking about ash baby. They're like, you had the goo baby, the ash baby, you had the demon on you, blah, blah, blah. Well, what he learned over the years is that could be anything. Anybody could get that, right? I think that thing that came up, I think that thing is it's hiding in the spirit, but that's what happens. And I think that thing brings something to you, and one of its offspring or whatever that it's nurturing. This is my opinion. I don't know for sure, it's speculation, but it throws it on people, like, and it attaches itself to people. Then, like with a hive mind, he can see you and follow you. Mm-hmm. Well, subsequently, and I don't know if the alien abduction thing had anything to do with it, but it started happening. And then when his daughter was 9, she said, I saw a skinny man that was all black. And she's like, and he walked really crooked, like he was hunched over, and his head was off to the side, and he had a stick sticking out the back of his neck. So that thing could be what had attached itself to him. They saw this thing multiple times, and every time he was told, go out there, say the Lord's Prayer. There were all these different prayers he did. I gave him some advice at that time. I told him to get the St. Benedict. Years later, like not this was like when I talked to him like a couple months ago, and I told him, I said, use the St. Benedict. It's been invaluable to me. And so he said he would go out there and he would shoot at it with rock salt that they had blessed, and this thing would disappear. But every time they saw it, it looked a little more advanced. So I wonder if that particular entity, that weird look, and I can't even do it justice the way he described it. Mm-hmm. The eyes were kind of deep set, there was like this, like ridge around them. It just looked weird, like this, like a prehistoric looking creature, but made of goo. And he said that this thing was just like, it had these weird looking lips that kind of stuck out duck-like, but almost like a reptilian. And he said that it was nasty, like somebody had died in a bog or something, and then reconstituted. That's what it looked like. And this thing had plagued his family for years. For years, this had gone on. And so he said, I don't know. He goes, I never saw it. I would shoot at what I saw, which was a shadow. He's like, but I only saw it twice. And he goes, and that second time, we believe that my sister killed that Skinwalker, like that in the spirit, like he was there in the spirit.
Yeah.
Something that had stalked his family and there was a blood feud there that had been going on for a long, long time. So that's that story. The abductions stopped and this is another thing, when Abigail, when she got married to her husband now, when she was 25, she was 19 when she got married. So she's not that old. But when she was little and she got married, or when she was born, she had all these problems, whatever. But now she's married, she doesn't have these issues anymore. The day she said it was almost like the day that she accepted the marriage to this guy. I'm not gonna say his name. We'll call him M. But when she said, "I do," like he said, "Will you marry me?" She goes, "We were at this like little gazebo, and we were on a trip. We're on vacation." And she said, "We were out there in California. It was very beautiful, and we had just come out of this winery in Napa Valley, and they had this gazebo, and you could take pictures and everything." And he says, "Will you marry me?" She's like, "From that point on, I felt this weight lifted off of me. That night," she goes, "I felt like I had slept better than I had ever slept." Another thing she said she was doing was she was smoking copious amounts of marijuana. But that started in her late teens because I think it was like a self-medicating, like a coping mechanism. But one thing people don't realize about marijuana is if you smoke it a lot, we've talked about this, what happens?
It ends up messing up your sleep because that stuff helps you get to sleep, but if it stops your REM sleep or it interrupts your sleep cycle, so you don't get good quality of sleep. And if you don't get REM sleep, then you don't dream. And dreaming is extremely important because it's your mind's way of processing the emotions, the stresses of your day-to-day life. So it's like it's over time, it has a very bad psychological effect that people don't really realize. They don't think about, because when you smoke a lot, you don't dream.
Yeah,
it's because you don't get REM sleep.
So, folks, that is something that is an absolute fact. I'm not even joking. A lot of people think that, well, I could smoke hella weed and nothing will happen to me. In fact, my friends have even used that term. I smoke hella weed, nothing happens to you. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're not going to dream. You're not going to have anything. You're deadening yourself, your senses, everything. And you're cutting yourself off from the real reality. And that's what that does. Now, I'm not going to say it doesn't have its practical uses, especially when you're in pain and things like that. But doing it every day, just like, living La Vida Loca, I think is a bad idea.
Yeah.
So if there's any questions, anybody wants to say something, I'm not going to be on real long tonight because I'm just so sick and under the weather. Oh, and we mailed off yesterday, right?
Yes, the giveaways and the Patreon swag boxes.
And so you got to understand something too. What I believe and what I think about this story, as incredible as it is, I think it was something that they saw that was purely in the spiritual. But I think these things can move in and out of physical, spiritual. That's the scary thing. And it can affect you in a physical way. A lot of people think, well, it's just a spirit. It's not going to mess with me. A friend of mine was doing security, and he was out in New Mexico one time, and he was telling me a scary story about a place that he guarded out in Santa Fe. And it was out on a ranch outside of Santa Fe, notoriously haunted. And the people were selling it, but somebody had gone out there, and the lawyers were, because somebody had died. And they said, well, we need a security guard to sit out there and make sure that the people don't come and try to take anything, even though they're relatives, until the will is read. Mm-hmm. And so he did that. And I've done stuff like that before. And he said, I didn't think nothing of it. But he ended up getting an attachment there, which followed him for like 22 years. So you got to understand, like, these things, it's not as cut and dry and easy as like, well, I'm just not afraid of it. I'm just going to go and stay in this haunted house. You know, it's not like that. Mm-mm.
I mean, actually, that kind of like Oh, I'm not afraid of a prideful thing. It could be an opening.
Yeah, Juan Leon. Yeah, you're right. That's funny. I was just talking to a guy named Leon, like yesterday. So SJP says, I joined the Patreon. How does the giveaway work? If you join the Patreon, you really don't need the giveaway.
No.
But if the giveaway, I mean, if you've been chosen and you've never won, you can win. I mean, I know people who've gotten both.
Yeah. But if you join the Patreon, then after 2 months, you just send us a message on Patreon saying, "Hey, this is my second month," and we'll send out your swag box. You just gotta send your address and your shirt size.
Yeah. What's up, Doc? I remember you. Just reading through some of the comments. So anybody got any questions? You know what? Put the link on there. If people want to jump on, save my voice. You guys can come on and talk and ask questions straight up. If you want to get on, we'll bring you on. And we'll go for another 30, 35 minutes. Sorry, I'm sick, guys. I always get sick last. I mean, like my body will fight it, and then it just okay, fine. I'm like, just if we're gonna do this, just get sick,
get it over with.
Get it over with. Why do I got to have them either bring up the rear? And my doctor's like, we have a better immune system. That's good. No, because I'm still gonna get it because I'm surrounded by a bunch of sick people. Oh yeah, Carrizo Springs, dude. I'm telling you right now, Carrizo Springs, Crystal City, those areas out there, they're no joke, man. There's some creepy ass stuff out there. Excuse me for saying the A word, but I mean it is. There's some other stuff too that the Skinwalker thing that I was gonna. I mean, not the Skinwalker thing. I was going to talk about the Pale Crawler thing, but I'm going to save that for Sunday because that's going to feed into what we're talking about on Sunday. It's kind of a 3-parter. Okay, what's going on, Ed Gein?
How are you, bud? Just stalking the woods tonight.
Dude, yeah, you look so creepy out there. What are you doing out there?
We were actually fixing the roof at my dad's cottage, so.
Again?
Nah, we've been doing it the last 3 days.
Yeah.
Just fiddling away at it.
Yeah. And I'm just playing with you, right? I'm not trying to be.
Oh, yeah, of course, bud.
I don't want you to think that I'm actually trying to pick at you or anything like that.
No, gosh, no.
But since you look so creepy, I don't want you mad at me.
If you can't make fun of your boys, who can you make fun of?
Well, that's the whole thing, like when guys do it. And I told one of my female friends, I was like, she was having problems years ago with her female friends being mean, really mean spirited. I said, us guys, we welcome it. We do that on purpose, and it's an outlet. For women, though, they're mean.
Well, it's because we don't mean it when we're being mean to each other.
Yeah, we're just joking around. Yeah. Women are like,
exactly.
Yeah.
It'd be different if I was jumping in the dumpster at Tim Hortons for the day-old donuts. I mean, I might take offense to it then, but
then you're kind of like, look, I got to do what I got to do to survive. If I was young,
I'm hungry. I'm hungry.
Yeah. What's up, Underfire? How you doing?
Hey, good. Yourself?
I'm good. Jetzel23 says, are there any sightings near Brownwood? Yes. In fact, my old co-host did a lot of work in that area, and I've been looking for his files for the last couple of months because I thought that they were on my old laptop, and I'm pretty sure they are. So when I find that old laptop, I think it's in storage, right, Anthony?
Yeah.
When we find that old laptop, we're going to find Armando's work, and he did a lot of work in that Brownwood area because he was originally from there. And so I interviewed one of his cousins one time. And so, yeah, there was some really interesting stuff there. And I think Abe Cias had interviewed him too, because Abe was a part of one of the early investigations we did. And that was actually brought about by Vic. And he was like, hey, we're going to talk to these people and blah, blah, blah. And then, so that's how I ended up talking to Abe and Armando had gone over there because Vic had told him he wanted this guy. He wanted to see if anybody would go and check out this, whatever. At least that's what I was told. Now, I don't know the whole story. I know that Abe and Armando had their own thing, you know, that they were looking into Elms Grove, which is a creepy place. And they kind of reported back to Vic about it. Problem, though, is even when you present the evidence to some of these people, they're just like, no, I just want a physical encounter. If you don't have a physical encounter, like, well, what? 90% of this stuff is based in the spiritual. It can move in and out of a physical base.
Yes.
But that's the thing, that they're just missing the mark big time.
You can show
Elms Grove needs to be clear cut, man.
You know, it could be already. I don't know. I mean, you know, Abe will be on tonight probably. And if he is, somebody had to just jump in and say, hey, today's Werewolf Wednesdays, I think, on Abe's show overnight. One of y'all, I might not be able because I'm so sick. I may make it, I may not. But if I can't sleep, I'll probably be on there. But if I can get some rest at all, I'll probably be asleep. But somebody had to get on there and ask him if they've clear cut it or whatever.
Oh no, I just joke saying that they should because it's so haunted.
Some of the pictures they got out of there is just,
it's insane.
It's crazy. It's creepy. And you know, Apache Pass is like that too. I had somebody not his sister reached out to me. I'm going to say his name because he's actually in prison, and I'm sorry to say he's probably going to be in prison. He had mental illness, and it was a guy I grew up with. And he started going out to Apache Pass. And what happened was he saw what he thought was a Bigfoot. And he had a mind speak thing with this Bigfoot. And then after that, he kind of lost his mind. But I think he was already having mental illness. So I don't know where the mental illness began and the truth, you know what I mean? Like where the mental illness ended and the truth began, or you know what I mean? Like it was kind of bleeding into one another. And I thought, you know, maybe he saw this, maybe he didn't. But his sister now, she reached out to me because she found my show through the Spotify. And she said, you know, I'm going to send you some pictures that he took. And she said that she had went to visit him in the penitentiary. And like I said, he's probably going to be the rest of his life. He got in trouble over and over again. And it wasn't like major things, but he just kept going back. So they just threw the book at him. But I honestly think, though, that he had a mental illness. But he was going out there by himself, and he was telling me, hey, man, I was hearing voices and blah, blah, blah. And he was talking to me and my friends about what he had seen, and maybe it was connected to what we had seen when we were teenagers. But it was a totally different description. But when me and my wife were out there on Thanksgiving last year with my brother, after we had our Thanksgiving festivities, I had that kidney stone, and I was, not to be graphic, but I was pissing blood. It was bad. And my wife's like, well, you know, let's go for a drive out there. If need be, I'll drive or whatever, you know. And so I had a big old truck, you know, and we just went through. You could run over anything in that truck. I just traded it in. Unfortunately, I had to. But that truck was badass. And so, you know, you ain't going to get stuck in that truck. It's 4x4. And so we went out there and we went up on this bridge, and there's all this trees and everything. And my wife takes a picture, and you see up in the tree what looks like a giant wolf head. And I had sent it to Bettina Moz, I sent it to Abe, and I said, take a look at this picture, because they have pictures of this stuff. They see it all the time. And both of them said, there it is right there. They picked it out real quick, circled it, and sent it back to me. I said, that's exactly what I saw. Yeah. And so, you know, it is an area that's very much like Elms Grove. I don't care what time of day or night you go out there. If you're out there at Apache Pass, I'm going to tell you right now, if you take pictures of the foliage, you're going to see something in that foliage. I'm not talking about pareidolia. These things look like wolves, werewolves, or like monsters. The faces look demonic. I've seen some of them, you know. So and they're not just there, but different places, you know. But I know that that's because right around the corner from there's this like weird where the road forks, and then it goes off into Apache Pass. And the people that used to live out there, they've all sold their land, and so there's just like one or two people living out there now, and all them farms and ranches out there are now just sitting there empty. And my wife said, this is weird. Why are there no more cows out there? Everywhere in Texas is cows. And Anthony, you've been out there. You can attest to this. It's like these huge pastures with no cows.
Yeah, it's empty.
Because, and what I was told by, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but he's a friend of, let's put it this way, the guy that caters, that catered the barbecue for our, yeah. He was outside with me one day. We were talking. And he said the predation, not Felton, but this guy that knows him. And I was picking up some food because Felton will leave food out for me, you know, because I'm like you, Dick. I got to go dumpster dive. And he's like, look, I'm just going to feed you. Just stop jumping in my trash. I'm just going to put some ribs and some feed these people. So whenever we were going through the process of buying the house, you can't, we actually needed Trey Feld, shout out to him and everybody else that helped us. But you can't mess with your bank account. You have to just sit there like a sitting duck. You can't mess with your cards because you're going to make a certain score so you can pay less interest. It's a whole thing. If you've ever bought a house, it's a pain in the ass. And I bought land, I bought house, things like that. It's just a nightmare. So we were going through it, and Felton he'd put the food out there for us, you know. And so there was this guy that pulled up one time, and I was out there picking it up, and I was with Anthony and my brother. And we talked to this guy. He's an old guy, and I knew his family from way back, way back. I started talking to him about it, and I told him, I said, we'll call him Baker. And I said, Baker, what happened with all these ranches in front of us? Like there's a whole bunch of them for sale out there. He says, well, the land is worth a lot more money, so people are selling. I said, yeah, but these people aren't living on the land. Like they're leaving the land and then selling it. You would think that you would stay there until it's sold. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, then it falls into disrepair. And you could get a better price for it if you keep it up and you go and show everybody, hey, it's well kept, it's maintained. And he says, well, there's been a lot of predation and everybody's losing their cattle. And every time we go out there, we'd see like a dead calf or a cat, you know, vultures everywhere. Something is doing it. Something is doing it. Now, some people will say, hey, it's these Bigfoot type creatures. But I haven't got any reports of them. Now, I think it was 2021. But there was this long gap, I think from like 2012 or 2013, something like that. We got to go back and look. I talked about it on the show, but then there was this long gap. But these creatures that people are seeing out there, they have this weird grayish ashen face. I'm not kidding. And they look like, they're not as big as a Bigfoot. They look like troglodytes. I'm not even kidding. And their teeth look all weird and they look deformed. Like if you took like the Hills Have Eyes people, and you bred them with a Bigfoot. That's what they look like. That's what I would say, right? The descriptions we got. I would not want to run into something like that. Now, if that's what happened to my friend, and then after that he went on a crime spree. Now, I have to say something here. I'm not going to say this young man's name, but he was on our show, and he was on our show multiple times, and he went down a bad road, unfortunately. And I'm not going to say, like I said, I'm not going to say his name. But man, I wish I could. Because I don't want to, hurt his family or anything. But he was on the show arguing for Luciferianism, and he was kind of lost. He was killed by the police. He was breaking into a house, and I'm just saying that as a cautionary tale because I tried to reach this guy. I tried talking to him. We tried praying for him, praying with him, and he had demons. He absolutely did. And he hit some hard times, and he was breaking into houses, and he, according to what we read, and it was somebody that knew him on Discord that told us initially, but that he pointed the gun at the police. And then they took, I think he shot at them, didn't he?
He did.
He shot at the police, and so we don't know if it was death by suicide by cop or whatever, or if he was just thought he could get away with it. He was autistic too. So he was on the show a few times. Go ahead.
That's something there, the autism. I've listened to a lot of Bigfoot encounters and Sasquatch encounters. People encounter them, and they always talk about how they have autistic children. They're extremely attracted to autistic children for some reason. And people in general.
They're connected to that spiritual aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because, autism, when it cuts off certain parts of the brain, and you use other parts that we don't normally use.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. LSD does that. I'm not saying people that are autistic have like LSD, but it shuts off. LSD doesn't really open anything. It shuts stuff down to where you hyper focus with certain senses. Yeah. And then you start to see smells. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm a synesthete, and I think my wife is too. And I'm not like I have a pretty good grasp, pretty good handle on it, but like numbers are colors to me. Like the number 7 is red, right? And certain numbers like 4 is green. You know what I mean? 3 is yellow, but not always. It depends. If you add the numbers together, then they become something else. So that's a weird thing.
That is a weird thing.
That's really interesting. It reminds me a lot of the D&T story you talked about. That guy, he just able to see the entire real reality and all this different stuff. It's really connecting the puzzle together. I think that's real, Josh, what you're experiencing. I think it's all connected to kind of my comment I mentioned earlier in the show, but it was missed. It seems like humanity has been suppressed. Our senses have been suppressed. We aren't able to see and sense clearly like a lot of these other beings and entities can. That's what it seems to kind of be like, which would make you question what's censoring us, what's suppressing us.
Well, there is something in our brains itself, and we've talked about the Jungian theories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's like your main self and your shadow self and all these different layers, you know.
The duality of man.
The duality, yeah. Well, look, I mean, so we were talking about Garth Brooks as a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
He's got that weird alter ego, Chris Gaines. Who the hell does that? Unless you're role-playing as something that you really are. Because, you know, a lot of times people want to tell on themselves because they want somebody to know the messed upness that they go through. You know what I mean?
It's like there's just a desire to be understood, you know?
Yeah. And to latch on to the group,
Yeah.
you know, and you want people from the group to desire your company. I don't care what anybody says. People are like, well, I'm a loner. I don't want to be just for your shadow self, though. You want notoriety in the other aspects, but then the shadow self takes over and they like, I want notoriety as the shadow self because that's who I really am. Think of like John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy. You know, these guys actually, you know, like Jeffrey Dahmer, he said he felt this relief. At first he was panicked and angry and he was upset, but then he's like, it's over. It's finally over. I can't kill anymore, you know, and maybe I can stop because what the heck was that? But he said that he stopped desiring to kill eventually when he got saved and, you know, he was baptized, whatever. But he said that it took him having to go to prison to get rid of those feelings and desires of murder. And so it is a weird thing. The mind can become corrupted and warped. And I think the shadow self has a lot to do with the spirit. And I really do. And like I've said before, the spirit controls the mind controls the body. The body delivers, but the spirit can just supersede and take over. And if your spirit is evil and you've come back to be evil, that's what you are. That's what you're going to be. And you can try anything you want. If you don't feel, if you have no feeling, if you have no empathy, I got news for you, bud. You're born beyond redemption and you will burn in hell. I'm not even joking. Now, I don't tell everybody who sins that they're going to go to hell. But absolutely a person who has no empathy. How do you achieve that? You're born with it. As simple as that. It's not like some long drawn out process. It's what it is. There are tons and tons of sociopaths out there, but how many of them actually act on the shadow self's desires and go kill? That's the key. And how many of those people are just mentally ill and they're just evil spirits themselves? Or are they attached they're tethered to, so to speak, this live wire of anger, hate, disgust, villainy that's basically the other, a demon.
Yeah, wheat and tares.
Yeah. Yeah, so you kind of look at this as mental illness and demonic obsession, possession go hand in hand. But there's a lot of people who have mental illness and they do everything they can to be a good person. I've worked with people like that. I used to do a lot for a part-time job when I was in high school. I know it sounds goofy. I sound like a big nerd, but I wasn't. I was just smart. But I tutored people. And I tutored some people in English and in math, and I tutored people in history, and I made money. I had actually turned into kind of like a part-time job until the point where my parents were kind of like, look, you're doing all this tutoring and stuff, yeah, but you need to focus on your own stuff. Well, they didn't realize that I was smart enough to do my, it didn't take a lot of studying because of my memorization skills. And then they figured out like, oh, okay, your kid's extremely intelligent, which seems like they would have already remembered that, but they just too busy chasing money. And they would just pop in and out of my life like a waiter and go, okay, let me take your order. Okay, goodbye. And then that was it. I wasn't raised correctly. And many people have accused me that over the years of not being raised correctly. I know I wasn't. I had to raise myself. Who the hell is homeless at the age of 17? But it's not true that I didn't have a lot of friends. I had a ton of friends. I've always had lots and lots of friends because I've always been that guy that would give you the shirt off my back. because I'm that guy, because I know that it doesn't matter. What really matters at the end of the day is how you treat other people. You're going to be judged by that. Jesus says love covers a multitude of sin. A lot of things can be overlooked if you love, and you may not go to hell. You may just go to a bad place and do a penance, which still sucks, but at least you're not in the lake of fire in the end of the day. But I'm going to tell you 100% people who are born beyond redemption, and people will argue with me all day that that's not true. And typically those are people that have children, spouses, brothers, sisters, cousins, whatever. Let me say, they don't want them to be going to a bad place. But I'm telling you, they're not capable of loving you. Now, that doesn't mean you don't love them. That's their responsibility. But don't try to save them. To a certain point, you're going to end up getting drugged down with them, because that's what the evil wants, is to turn your life into the reprobate's mind. And so that's what I tell people. So, Abe's message is very important. The love foundation, that's something that he taught me that. Because honestly, before that, I kind of understood it. I paid lip service to it, but I really didn't grasp. He's talking about loving these people, even though they're, like he'll say, they're pieces of shit. You still have to love them. And that's one of the hardest things you could ever do. But I'll pray for anybody. I'll pray for them. I've never, these people saying that God told them not to pray for me. That's crazy. There's never a person that you don't pray for, because it's not on you. It's on them. If they don't reciprocate or respond, you're still doing what you have to do. Because a lot of things, and people don't understand this either, is its intent. If you have the intent to do good and do righteous, that's all that matters. Yeah. Let's put it this way. Sin is like a matter of perspective too. And what I mean by that is, if you think that something is evil and you do it anyway, you're still sinning. Mm-hmm. But what if it's not really evil, but you have the thought, well, this is wrong what I'm doing, and you deceive or do something, whatever, and you know that it's not right. That's still a sin, because you in your heart feel like or know that you're doing evil, even though maybe it's not really evil. It turns out, hey, maybe you were telling the truth or something. You still did it with intent. Yeah. And that intent is going to get you in trouble every time. And you could be just as evil as any demon. I have seen, let's put it this way, disembodied spirits be as vile and evil as any demon. People don't think that people can be as evil and vile as demons. Yes, they can, especially when they allow the demon willingly to attach and do harm to other people, or they seek it out for the purpose of doing evil, like a Skinwalker. Yeah. Now, if you go back and listen to the Patreon episode, you'll understand that this Skinwalker came from the Archon originally. It was the original sin, or they called it the original sin, going all the way back to the Fallen. But this is, the human aspect of it. When we talk about the human aspect of it, most of these entities at one time were a human vessel, but they're just ancient now, and they are unrecognizable as people. If you saw them, they would look horribly, just gross, deformed, kind of like Bigfoot. People are like, oh, Bigfoot isn't that. Dude, that thing is not a good, I don't care what anybody tells you. You're going to go out there at your own risk, and your own peril. I hate when I see my friends out there running around looking for this thing and running around the woods. Some of these people, I love them very dearly, but with all due respect, they're barking up the wrong tree, and they're just as likely to run into a dogman or a rake as they are to a Bigfoot. These things are all on that same vibration.
I had a story.
A lot of times they'll go out there with people who are, I'll say this. People who look for Bigfoot have a lot more success seeing it if they go out there with someone who can see through the veil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So putting it that way.
I think it ties together with both things, the sense of seeing. I think some of these people with these mental illnesses and things and hearing the voices and stuff, like I've been attacked by stuff for quite a long in my life. I think they do target people who have either great potential in life or here for a purpose, or generally really good people, and they go and they drive those people crazy on a purpose to stop them from doing what they're meant to do in that life. So I think some of these people, that's really what's going on, and that's why they're being attacked so heavily compared to the average Joe.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you see it all the time. You see it. Richard, we've talked about that, getting attacked spiritually. You got very ill at one time when they were, and they were slinging curses. They could say what they want.
Absolutely.
But they were slinging curses because we all got, hit with it, And, that's probably what this is too. I mean, you could say, well, you might have the flu, but why did you get the flu? I mean, somebody had the intent to send it to you. It's not going to hurt me. It's not going to kill me. I'm going to be fine.
Go to bed fine and wake up with full-blown pneumonia the day after the live stream? Yeah. Okay.
Weird.
Yeah. I know at the time the father's shop, I walked down, I saw one of these, I don't know if it was a dog man, a werewolf, or something like that, and I see through parts of it. It looked at me and then just vanished on the spot. That evening, we had Thanksgiving dinner, Canadian Thanksgiving. Me and my father got so horribly, horribly sick. I've never been that sick from a cooked meal. Like, I mean, we were out for 2 days after this, and I won't describe it because it's unpleasant, but very sick. Yeah, you can imagine, right? Very sick. But I can just
turkey is not cooked well. It could make you really sick. So let's rule that out. Are you sure it wasn't undercooked turkey?
Cooked perfectly. We've been cooking it for decades now. We've never had a bad meal, and it was just like only me and my father.
You were cooking that turkey for decades, so that thing's definitely done. You ever heard of that, Richard? Somebody cooking a turkey for decades? We killed this turkey back in 1984.
For decades.
It's a slow cooking. Cold smoked turkey.
That's your dad?
Yeah. You guys want to see him?
Shut up, be quiet, stop talking.
There's my dad right there. Say hi, Dad.
How's it going, sir?
People.
That's sounds quite weird. He watches our show religiously.
He is quite the weirdo.
But so are we.
Here, I'll get it. Yeah.
Does he believe in all this too?
Oh shit, no.
No, he's like, hell no.
Oh no, not even close. But telling him all the stuff, it's starting to I think it's starting to make an impression.
Marinate.
Yeah. I mean, he did tell me one time that he's sure that I was probably right about all this crazy crap. He just can't put that into his fabric of reality and keep a level mind. So
how is his accent? What is his accent like?
It's British, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of different British accents. Is it like this, or what is he talking about?
They're from near Crewe, so I guess it would be like near Liverpool accent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not too hard to understand.
Oh, well, Kevin Murphy, he's jumping in here. What's going on, Kevin?
Hey, man. How are you?
I'm sick as a damn dog.
Oh, no. What happened?
Actually, my dogs are probably doing better than me.
Hey, did you get that box I sent you, man?
Yes, I did.
Awesome.
Luckily, Madeline retrieved it from the outpost, and then I haven't opened it yet because I've been so sick.
What did you get? A flu or something, man?
I don't know what I got, man.
Food poisoning.
Demons.
Just a summation of all the toxic energy that's been directed at you.
Yeah, probably. And Anthony and Tony, and then Scorp and me and everybody and Nellie's. I'm hoping and praying she don't get like we are because she's got that other problem.
Right.
So I'm just like, golly.
I usually touch base with her on Facebook daily. How is everyone else doing? How's Anthony? How's the whole crew?
Anthony's sick too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like a great show. It sounds like you got your finger in the pulse, existentially speaking. It's good to hear it. It's good crack, as they say in Ireland. Dick Richards and your dad. Hello, man. God
What's up, brother?
Thanks for
God bless you too, my friend.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
And so, Under Fire, we definitely want to record with you because what we decided was we're going to start dropping the pre-records. We're going to do a pre-record interview, and it's not going to count toward the Patreon or the members only. We're just going to start dropping like a Friday or Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Pre-record every week, and we're just going to interview different people. We already have a bunch of people lined up that they've been. It's not them, it's us. And we have plenty of people who want to do it. We're just so freaking slammed, and it's hard to get in there and record with people because you got to coordinate it, But we just got to get, make the time and get it done. But I'm dealing with 1,000 things right now. And today I didn't have many wins today. I just gonna hope for the best tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow will be better.
I'm sorry, Josh.
Yeah, it is what it is. Today wasn't my day.
What are your symptoms, Josh? I just got here, so I'm sorry.
Well,
upper respiratory.
But yeah, it's right now. It's just in my throat and my nose. But Anthony's got a cough, so I'm hoping that it doesn't go down into that.
Sometimes fever.
Yeah, feverish,
body aches.
you know. So I don't know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just not. It's not. This is crap. I don't know what this is, but it's crap.
So
Hopefully,
I
it's
was gonna.
not the vid.
Do what?
Oh, I said, hopefully, it's not the vid.
Well, if it is, it is. You know, and that thing has mutated to the point now to where you will go through and have flu-like symptoms, and you'll have body aches, but you won't have a fever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are getting like fever symptoms, but no fever.
Right.
Like you put the thermometer in, you don't have a fever, but you have all the symptoms, probably the vid. So that's what I'm thinking it could be, because a lot of people are getting it. There's another whatever going around. It's been a while since I had it. And if that's what it is, so be it. I mean, you know.
Yeah. So, quick story about New Mexico, from a town that I'm from. I'm not going to disclose the name of the town, but here's what occurred here many years ago.
Good guy. Good guy.
So apparently, there's this story. This is before my time, but it was told to me growing up, and it was told to many other people back in the day. But anyways, there was a bar. It's torn down now, long gone now, but it was a bar called Reds, and apparently the story goes is that everybody was told never to go there during Lent, right? And the reason being was because apparently the devil ended up, appearing in the middle of the bar, but originally disguised as a very beautiful woman.
No surprise there.
No, definitely not.
So did people see her and like see her feet were weird or something like that?
No. Apparently, people said that the person literally turned into, like whatever the devil, as we see, the devil portrayed, just appeared, shapeshifted into that, and then it was gone.
Wow.
I mean, who knows? But New Mexico does have a lot of weird stuff out here for sure. I mean, every state does it in its own respect, but there's just some weird stuff over here for sure. I can say this: there is actually quite the history in this state with Freemasons, which I didn't know before. Considering this is the Southwest, but yeah, they set up base over here long ago. And then beyond that, me personally, I've just, I have had at least one bona fide UFO experience. Whatever I saw was just beyond me, just super, super bizarre. And then whatever I did witness, it was getting chased down by a military jet. So I don't know if it was indeed something entering into our dimension, or if this was just a military test, with some of their technology, and I just happened to witness it.
Excuse me, brother. Did you say that was in New Mexico?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
You know what's weird? I've always wondered about that, the Lincoln County War and the way it went down. That's Billy the Kid and all that.
Right.
When you stop and you look at a lot of this stuff that happened back in those days, to me, the symbolism, everything, it was already there. It was already taking root. There were Masons that were fighting amongst themselves, and they hired people to do whatever. And I do believe that, for example, there's a ranch, and it's called the 6666. Now, the Burnetts that owned that ranch for years and years, they sold, I think, recently, like 2023 or something like that. But it's here in Texas, in Guthrie, right? But get this. The original brand came from a guy named Frank Crowley.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was from overseas, like he was English or something like that.
Of course he was.
Aleister Crowley, And so this guy sold his cattle, 100 head, to the Burnetts. And of course, the Burnets are very, very famous, popular. I mean, we have Burnett Road here in Austin,
Yeah.
but they're a very, very big, powerful family. And of course, another world renowned is the King Ranch down in South Texas. But you got to wonder, these people, they got their start probably from the old money overseas that backed them up to get these massive, massive land grants. So I'm sure that they came to Texas just like everybody else, and they worked together. They were like, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Help me get this 100,000 acre piece of land. And I know that the 66, I think it's like a 350,000 acre ranch at one time.
It's massive.
That's massive. But for Texas, that ain't nothing.
No.
That's like a spit. But the King Ranch, a lot of those other ranches that are down there now, they were all partitioned off from the King Ranch. In fact, there's even a very famous Texas dish called King Ranch chicken. I like it, but it was something that was served by the King Ranch people down in the South. That's where it came from. But I've studied some of these people, like the Lincoln County War. I believe that Billy and his buddies were hired by English Masons to fight these Irish people. And of course, the Irish people, they're the bad guys, right? They're the bad guys in the movie and all that. But I don't think that's what it really was. I think it was basically the English Masons were trying to make an inroad there, and the Irish were like, no, this is a new country. We're not going to be taking your shit in the new world, so they fought them. Yeah. But the script always gets flipped. Even though they're considered vicious, horrible outlaws, they're still romanticized. But Billy the Kid was a bloodthirsty nightmare. He wasn't no good guy.
No.
And a lot of times, these outlaws, they'll get deputized and then they'll be outlaws. Look at Wyatt Earp. Look at Doc Holliday. Doc Holliday was a bloodthirsty little bastard. And he was deputized. And get this, he was a Wells Fargo stagecoach shotgun rider. And, these guys, they did what they did. But how are you going to bring law and order to a place that's lawless if you don't go and bring somebody that understands it? Somebody to catch a thief, really able to kill, to do what it need to do to get it to where it needs to be. I stood there in Leadville on a spot where Doc Holliday shot a man. He killed him right there in a gunfight. And supposedly, Doc Holliday, his reputation's a little better, actually, eyewitness wise, than Wild Bill. Wild Bill was known to be a little bit shady. Like he might draw down on you a little quick before, say, okay, I'm going to count oh, look what happened. Everybody's drunk and nobody cares. But Doc Holliday was real into it for the sport. He was so fast, but he would actually, like mock people, and like kind of just be like, what do you want to do? This little skinny tuberculosis turd, what are you going to do? He ain't going to fight you. He's got those pistols and he's good with them. So a guy like me, you're just a target. What are you going to do? You can't whip his ass. Wyatt Earp was a pugilist. People don't realize that. He was known for knocking people out. They claim that he knocked out at least 24 people. Punched them out, straight up punched them out right there in Dodge City. Bat Masterson, same thing. But they also shot people and did what they had to do. But when you start looking at these people, why did the chips fall the way they did? You know what I mean? I believe if you looked at the tombstone, the Cowboy War, I think at some point Wyatt was approached by Masons to deal with those guys because those guys were not going to conform. Same thing when he was in Dodge City. You had to, there were these giant Texas cattle barons, and they said, we're bringing our cattle up here. We're running them through Dodge, and we don't want these other cowboys making our money. So keep them under control and we'll pay you. So he was probably sort of like, I'm not saying it, I'm pretty sure he was like him and Bat were probably on the take from the King Ranch people, from the, these different, like the 66 people, whatever, they were probably paying them pretty well to keep these other cowboys in line. And so same thing went on in Tombstone. They said you got this gang of 100 guys and they're not cowboys. They're steer stealers. That's what they are. They're out there stealing cattle. So the Masons are in control. They said, look, we can't, deal with these people. We can't have them taking everything that we're supposed to be stealing. We're stealing this. What,
That's ours. We stole it fair and square.
Because, when they were in court, They said Wyatt Earp wasn't a good talker. That is bullshit, because later on, he did interviews for the radio. You know, he lived to be in his to the 1920s. He was on the radio. Like, he interviewed people. They said he wouldn't stop talking. They said, well, he wasn't a good talker. He sat there in court and didn't say a word. Why would he not say anything? Even in his own defense, he was just kind of there. They said, well, he wasn't a good talker. Bullshit. Wyatt Earp was known for being a foul mouth. You know, he'll cuss you out and whatever. And there was a famous incident in Los Angeles. He was a boxing referee for years, and he wore his gun into the ring. You know, and he's like 89 years old or something, and they were like, "Look, you can't be wearing your gun." And these people are. He's like, "It's a violent sport, and I'm a violent man, and I'm going to take my gun." And okay, it's Wyatt Earp, right? Let him do what he's going to do. He's ancient. He did all these things. He killed all these men, you know, to stop the West, you know, whatever. But you had those guys like Ike Clinton. I mean, they were horrible people, dude. I mean, nasty, mean people, murderers, bandits, and they had become the de facto law. So you had to have guys like, you know, Luke Short and Doc Holliday, Turkey Creek, Jack Johnson, all them guys. They had to go in there and they had to kill these people. You know, there was a famous story. I liked it a lot. In Dodge City, there was another sheriff that took it. Was Luke Short, and he was, you know, there in Batman. I think he was retiring or something, and Luke took over. Well, these bandits came into town and they told him, "We're going to kill you." He got on there and sent a telegram. So he laid low for about 3 days, and within 3 days, he had some of the most ruthless gunfighters ever to walk the earth showed up in mass there to defend him. And then when he walked out there with Bat Masterson, Wyatt Earp, Doc Holliday, you know, Virgil and Morgan and all these other guys, he was like, "Do you still feel like fighting?" And they were like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe we were a little hasty. We said we were going to kill you. We were going to thrill you. That's what we were going to thrill you." One of them starts juggling, you know, because these guys weren't above getting on a train and going somewhere to defend their friends. You know, the world wasn't that big. You know, they could still find you, and so they did. And so for about 3 or 4 days, he just hung out, and they called him a coward and everything else. But there was like 20 of them. But when his friends showed up, then everybody started acting right. And Luke Short himself was no punk. You know what I mean? But it's interesting, though, you know, and you really don't know the hidden history of who was getting paid by who to do what. Because I looked at that story and I thought, these guys came out of nowhere. They were cattle people and they were causing all kinds of problems. And they had hung a guy illegally for supposedly poaching cattle. But they were for this big outfit. And, of course, the King Ranch people were like, well, they're not us. We're not, you know, whatever. But they had some of their cattle for their brand. Well, it could have been a push by them just to see how far they could take it. Is the law going to do what they want us to do, or are we going to be able to push them around? Well, they found out real quick that that's not how it works, because, you know, people have friends and they're going to defend them. So they ended up saying, well, it's just these few guys here, you know, but they were just they stole a bunch of our cattle. And of course there was a conflict. Well, no, that's not what happened. You paid us, blah, blah, blah. Of course, everybody starts lying and saying that's not what happened. Who knows? You know, but I think the Masons have had their hands in things for a long time, probably going all the way back to the old countries, coming here and establishing, you know, hegemony. And they had to hire these people to do their bidding. You know, you had the cannon fodder and then you had the pistoleros, you know. I don't know. I mean, it is an interesting history. You never really know. And some of the most famous, like John Wesley Hardin, like that dude, he killed 44 men, like confirmed kills. Guys like Jesse James, you know, they don't get as much notoriety. Those guys were a little bit before the time of the Earps, before what the Earps did. You know, the Cowboy War was 1870s, late 1870s. With these guys like Jesse James and Nicole Younger and all that, they were doing this on the heels of the Civil War. They were former Confederate guerrillas, and they just didn't stop fighting. They did it by stealing money from the federal government, and eventually, you know, they got killed. They were bushwhacked. But when you stop and you look at the angle of who they were and what they were doing, they were folk heroes. So then you had these punks like the Clantons. They were trying to relive. They were like, oh, we're just like Jesse James. We're fighting for the South is going to rise again, and Arizona is going to be the territory to do it. And really and truly, it wasn't. It was Texas. That's why that whole movie was called Gone to Texas, the Josie Wells. You know, that's not a real thing. That's a composite, you know. basically saying like he's Cole Younger, Jesse James, and John Wesley Hardin. They were all former Confederates, but they were bad dudes, you know. But you know, their time was a little bit before that, you know. And then, you know, during the time of the Cowboy War, it was really white Herbie. But you had a lot of other bad guys. Cactus Jack, he was another guy. I mean, you know, you read all these people. I know it's kind of off topic, but it's interesting, and you really don't know what the interests were because they were always working for these Cattlemen's Association or you know, the Beef Council or whatever, you know. So you don't really know what they were up to and what hand the Masons had in that, you know, because there was so much money in the land. And then when oil became a thing and they realized that oil was worth something, shit, dude, all these people that were selling cows, they were like, we're not selling cows, we're selling land full of oil now. You know, this is, we're becoming multi-millionaires, billionaires, whatever. But they were, before that, it was these feudal lord, you know, cattle barons. If you watch that show Yellowstone, you know how they just kind of take things into their own hands.
Yeah,
I can attest that that's how it is.
Wow.
Yeah, my first job was shoveling horse shit on a ranch. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
You know, I was a young man and I saw a lot of things, dude. And they were just like, you didn't see nothing. I'm like, I'm too young to be getting my ass whooped over here for whatever, you know. Yeah, you learn real quick, especially here in Texas. You know, the golden rule: he who has the gold makes the rules.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't have freaking, you know, electricity till the 50s.
That's right.
Because it's better if everything's dark, then you can kill. It's just the way it is, man. But anyways, folks, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for everybody that joined and jumped on. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. We will be going a little bit further into that episode and touching on the fringes of it, and then going into another encounter with somebody who had something that could be considered a rake, the screaming rake thing. But it was like a skinwalker. So, and then we're going to kind of finish up with Charlie's encounters that his children were having. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to jump. Send me a message so I can, because my messages are so full. Send me one so we can get together this coming week and we can record. I really want to get your stuff. You got a lot of stuff.
Perfect. I'll do that right now.
Yeah, please, and then we'll get it going.
Josh,
and, Richard, if you want to, you can interview him with us.
Sure, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, just
Josh.
Yeah,
sorry, just a quick. There's a great book, the best book that I know of on the Comanche, in that box that I sent you.
Lords of the Plains.
It's inscribed. No, it's by this guy from Finland. I think he's been writing the best books on indigenous people that I've ever encountered.
Oh, like the Laplanders, huh? Yeah,
something like that. But and there's also a copy of the autobiography of Yogi for Nellie, and this is something for Anthony. But there's some stuff specifically for you. I don't know the best way to get in touch with you other than off camera on these shows.
Messenger, email, however you want to get in touch with me. Kevin, we're friends. You know, you can get a hold of me.
Okay. I will follow that lead. Bid you all a great night. Dick Richards, a pleasure.
See you, buddy.
Thank you. That gentleman, I'm sorry, I don't know his name, the guy that you're going to get in touch with and record.
That's Under Fire. The other guys.
Thank you very much for your input and everything. Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Another great show.
Yeah, Kevin, I'll see you.
Love you, Kev.
To be
good night, Kevin.
Josh, talk to you soon.
All right. Yeah, that's Kevin Murphy. Great guy, great musician. I mean, he's a fun guy to talk to. I've had lots of conversations with him. But yeah, so I'm going to jump, man. I went longer than I wanted to. My voice is just, you know.
Yeah, go and take it easy, Josh.
Yeah, I need to go in there and just, you know, and I still got to. I'm trying to do a lot of different things, man. The phone was ringing off the hook today, and I was just like, I was not making any headway, which just frustrates the hell out of me because I'm used to trying to push, you know, and getting some kind of results. And today was just like, nope, not today. Sometimes it's just not your day. You just got to go, hey, this isn't a day to be in a gunfight. You know, it's just not your day, man. That's it. So, all right, guys, I appreciate everybody popping in. I'm going to let everybody go.
Load up on that vitamin C, boys.
Yeah, and there's two different kinds. I need to put it in the group, the group with the supplements. Nelly, there's a healthy vitamin C, not the one with the absorbent citrate, whatever it's called. There's another one that's got the full spectrum vitamin C. Because if you get that emergency, it's only got that one kind, and that's the whole thing, you know.
The liposomal stuff's pretty good too.
The what?
Liposomal stuff. It's like mixed with like the liposomes that absorbs into the body better.
Well, yeah, because that NAC is good, but it doesn't absorb, all of it doesn't absorb.
Only like 10%, yeah.
Well, yeah, and they say, some people say to eat it on, to take it on an empty stomach, and then this German lady that I go to all the time, she's an Olympic medalist. She's like older than me. She looks like she's 40. She's 60. And I'm going to trust her because she's never steered me wrong. And she says, no, you can take NAC. You don't have to take it on an empty stomach. You know.
Take it with a teaspoon of oil as well, and it works. It gives it a bit of a liposomal effect as well.
Yeah, that oregano oil is amazing. That's really good stuff.
Yeah, it's one of the best things you can take.
All right, guys, I'll do the giveaway next time. Tomorrow night, what is the show tomorrow night going to be? Do you
know? Tomorrow night, I think, is going to be a Dogman episode, but I don't remember.
Well, that's what you said about this last one, but
yeah, but like I ended up switching the order that we release them in.
Okay.
So this one's actually going to be the Dogman one.
Yeah. All right. So then that's a Dogman one. I wonder which one that is because I can't remember. I've done so many Dogman stories. I mean, there are so many people who've seen these things.
I don't remember.
When people talk to me about that, they always want to ask me what I think it is. I mean, hell if I know, dude, but I know that it's not good.
Well, let me tell you that when I told my dad about the Dogman encounter I had, they all thought I was insane until we were sitting at the pub and his best friend pipes up and goes, "Hey, Richard, was it a Dogman, a werewolf, or a Skinwalker that you saw?"
You don't know.
I was just like, "Oh, thank you for saying that, Murray." And he told my dad, he's like, "This guy ain't full of shit." And he goes, these friggin' things are real. Yeah.
Well, when you were hanging out there at the Slaughtered Lamb, did they tell you to keep off the moors?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, keep off the moors.
Yeah,
like, okay,
they should have kept off the moors.
There is some areas out there outside of my hometown that look like moors. And then they go down into these bogs, and you're kind of like, yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah. They've got that. They've got stuff like that here too, but a lot of like out west in Alberta and stuff, you got weird areas like that in the foothills.
Can you imagine what all the weird stuff is in Canada? It's so vast. Yeah. It's huge, and it's just miles and miles of nothing. I mean, you know, there's beautiful whatever.
The native reserves up here, man. These natives are into some weird stuff, man. I'm telling you, the skinwalking has not gone away.
Oh, no. It's still very much intact, you know. And
yeah,
the people will try to tell you, yeah, well, the Skinwalker is really a Navajo thing. I said, no, every tribe has it. They do, whether they want to talk about it and call it that or not. The Utes are very much like that is a Skinwalker because that's what the Navajo call it, and they believe that they have been cursed. Yeah. I'm telling you, the Utes are 100%. They believe that. So I've spent some time with them, you know. But anyways, I'm going to run, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to my co-host, Anthony, for toughing it out. He was real sick. We didn't know if we were going to make it today until the last minute. I said, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I took a hot shower today, first time in years. I don't take hot showers. But my wife was like, maybe you should take a hot shower instead of a cold one. You're just going to get sicker. And I said, okay, I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. So I did. And I hate the way hot showers feel. It just feels icky now. It just feels weird. You've been taking cold showers for 4 or 5 years.
It's good when you finish it with cold water. I like to do that.
It's weird because I started it with cold, and then I turned it up to heat. And but I put it on my back. It felt good on my back. I'm just not used to it. It just kind of feels weird. No, I got to get used to it.
Turns on your body temperature.
Do the breathing exercises and take cold showers. Your body will thank you. All right, guys, I'm going to run. Thank you to everybody who donated. Don't forget, guys, get your name in green so tomorrow night you can hear the episode that we got coming out. I know it's going to be a banger. We put all the really good ones right there together, so they're going to be coming out. And so thank you to everybody who's showed up. And don't forget to like and subscribe. That's the best way to help the channel, really. And if you really want to help the channel, become a member in greens. You get you the show tomorrow, and then become a Patreon member. So you get your swag bag, and you can get the show on Tuesday. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys. Good night. I'll see you later, Dick. I'll see you.
See you later, brother.
Oh, sorry. See the banner here. Send your experiences to Josh Turner at PRTpodcast.com. That's how you can get in touch with me. Let me play something here. I don't know what you guys want to hear. How about the Telltale Heart?
Nervousness born from the earth, my madness came by storm. I heard heaven and hell, but how can I be mad? Across the table, I'll tell you the tale. I wanted for nothing from the old man, not even gold. I'll tell no lie, it was the old man's eye, a veiled pale blue eye peering into it. My blood ran cold, and my heart is where I hold a secret plan for this old man. A descent into madness, it cannot be, it was the old man, not me. A pounding, a beating, the heart kept screaming. You may think me mad, but how for madness knows nothing. I sit here, my mind clear, this tale I tell. Are these the sounds from hell? 7 days I crept planning, but never did the eye reveal itself till that night. A slip, a sound awakened did he, but I could not flee. I felt his fear that we tried to comfort and steer his dread, for he lay back in his bed. In flash I jumped on him, dragging him down. Now no more sound, he lie there dead on the ground. A descent into madness, it cannot be, it was the old man, not me. A pounding, a beating, the heart kept screaming. Both fear and glee swept over me. No one would ever find the body. Sometime now they came, sat chatting, but I could hear it, the heart beating. It grew louder and louder, I could no longer contain myself as I slid the chair. They still stayed there, not leaving, my anxiety rising. Could they not hear the beating heart coming from beyond the dark? No longer could I stand it, came my admittance. Here it is, the beating of his hideous heart. A descent into madness, it cannot be, it was the old man.